Please don't make her pay. The girl's voice cracked before Luke Bennett even saw the truck. She stood just inside his garage, 11 years old at most, cheeks wet, one hand wrapped around a worn red key tag. Luke set down his wrench. She won't pay. The girl blinked. What? There won't be a charge for getting you safe. Behind him, his 13-year-old son, Owen, looked up from the workbench. Dad, we're still leaving at 5, right? Luke glanced at the clock. They had less time than he wanted. Yeah. Owen looked at the crying girl, then back at Luke. You just used some of it. Luke heard him. He still grabbed his blue shop towel. Where's the truck? The girl pointed toward the parking lot. Right there. It died. What's your name? Lily. Okay, Lily. Show me. She hurried beside him. My mom will pay you. I already told you she doesn't have to. Lily's face tightened instead of relaxing. She'll want to. Luke glanced back. Owen was still standing in the garage doorway, arms folded now. That was enough to tell Luke the free repair had already created 2 problems before he had even opened the hood. One girl was worried about what her mother owed. His son was watching another promise lose time. The truck sat crooked near the edge of the lot, front end angled away from the garage. Luke held out his hand. Key. Lily hesitated, then gave him the red tag. Did it make any strange noise before it stopped? She shook her head. I don't know. Mom said it was acting weird this morning. Luke opened the hood, checked the battery connection, then leaned in farther. The terminal was loose enough to move by hand. This may be simpler than it feels. Lily wiped her face with her sleeve. Is it bad? I don't know yet. He tightened the connection, checked the cable, then had Lily stand well back. Stay there. Luke started the truck. The engine turned over. Lily's whole face changed. It works. For now. She smiled for the first time. Luke did not. He listened to the idle, then checked under the hood again. This gets it moving safely. I still want the charging system checked before anybody starts depending on it. Lily's smile faded. Is it going to break again? I didn't say that. You said check it. That's different. Owen came closer from the garage. Dad. Luke looked at the clock. 5 had passed. Owen did not need to say anything else. Luke wiped his hands on the blue shop towel. I know. Lily looked between them. I can go. Luke glanced at the running truck. Not until your mom gets here. She's on her way. Then we wait. Owen's jaw tightened. You said we were leaving. I know. You always know after. Luke stopped. The truck was running again, but the real consequence was standing 10 feet away in a dark hoodie, watching his father give away time first and explain later. Luke looked at Lily. When did your mom say she'd be here? Soon. Luke nodded. Okay. He did not offer another repair. He did not pull the truck into the bay. He stood beside it and waited. A few minutes later, a car door slammed near the far edge of the lot. Lily turned first. Mom. Claire Dawson crossed the parking lot quickly, work bag still on one shoulder, light brown hair pulled back like she had left somewhere in a hurry. Her eyes went straight to Lily. You okay? Lily nodded. The truck died. I know. He fixed it. Claire looked at Luke, then at the running truck, then at Owen waiting in the garage doorway. Luke watched her put those pieces together. What happened? She asked. Loose battery connection, Luke said. I tightened it. It's running, but I'd still want the charging system checked before you count on it. Claire set her bag down and opened the driver's door. You mind? Luke shook his head. She started the engine herself and watched the dash. No panic. No dramatics. She listened for a few seconds, then shut it off. You're sure it's safe to move? To drive home, yes. To work tomorrow? Luke hesitated. That's different. Claire noticed the pause. What do you need to check? Charging output. Cable condition. Make sure this wasn't just the first visible problem. Lily moved closer to her mother. Mom needs the truck for work. Claire glanced down at her. I know. Luke looked at Claire. What kind of work? She picked up her bag. Home health. That answered more than she intended. Luke pictured a day built around getting from one client to the next. A truck wasn't convenience for her. It was the route. I can check it now. Owen shifted behind him. Luke heard it. Claire did too. Her eyes went toward the garage. You're closed. Pretty much. You were leaving. Luke looked at Owen. We've got a few minutes. Owen's face tightened. We had a few minutes 20 minutes ago. Claire went still. Luke rubbed the blue shop towel between his hands. He's right. That surprised Owen enough to change his expression. Luke looked back at Claire. The immediate issue is handled. You don't need to stay. Claire reached for her wallet. How much do I owe you? Luke shook his head. Nothing. Her hand stopped. Your time isn't nothing. I told Lily there was no charge. Before you spoke to me. Luke nodded once. Yes. I didn't ask for free work. No. Claire looked at Lily, then at Owen, then back at Luke. That matters. Luke's first instinct was to tell her why it didn't. Explain that the repair took minutes. Tell her not to worry about it. Instead, he said, okay. Claire waited. Luke added, I still think you should schedule the charging check. That I can pay for. Luke almost said no again. He caught himself. Yes. Claire nodded once. That changed something. Not much, but enough. Lily held out the worn red key tag. Claire took it from her. Thank you, she said to Luke. He nodded. Then Claire looked at Owen. And I'm sorry this took your time. Owen glanced at Luke before answering. It wasn't you. Luke felt that one. Claire heard it too. She put a hand lightly on Lily's shoulder. We're going. Luke stepped back. No argument. Claire almost smiled. Almost. She got into the truck with Lily and pulled out carefully. Luke watched the taillights disappear. Then Owen picked up his jacket from the workbench. We still going? Luke checked the time. Yeah. For how long? Luke looked at him. As long as I said we would. Owen studied him like he was deciding whether to believe that. Then he nodded. The truck was running. Claire had kept control of what came next. Luke had accepted one boundary instead of deciding what help had to look like. But the unpaid repair was still sitting between them, not as a gift Claire had chosen, but as a debt she had never agreed to carry. Claire came back the next morning before Luke had finished opening the second bay. He saw the truck first, then the folded work route sheet in her hand, then the cash. Luke stopped wiping down the counter. No, Claire kept walking. You don't even know what I'm here for. Yes, I do. You're very confident for someone who was wrong about what help looked like yesterday. That stopped him. Owen was at the far workbench sorting sockets before school, close enough to hear, but smart enough not to look interested. Claire placed the cash on the counter. For the roadside repair. Luke pushed it back. I told Lily there was no charge. You told a scared 11-year-old before talking to me. Luke looked at the bills, then at Claire. Fair. She did not pick them up. I'm still paying. No, her mouth tightened. Luke heard himself and tried again. The emergency fix was my call. I'm not charging for it. That still makes it your call. Yes. Claire folded her arms. And that's the problem. Luke glanced toward the truck through the open bay. You drove it here. I did. That means you want the follow-up checked. I want to know if I can make my route today. She unfolded the sheet. A list of stops, times, distances. Nothing dramatic. Just a day with very little room for failure. Luke studied it without touching it. How much time do you have? 25 minutes. That's not enough for a full charging system check. I know. You could leave it. I can't. Luke looked at her. Claire tapped one block on the route sheet. I have 3 clients before noon. If I lose the truck today, I lose the route. Luke nodded slowly. That changed the task. Not fix everything. Decide what could responsibly be known now. He walked to the truck. Popped the hood. Claire did. Luke connected his tester, checked charging voltage, then had her start the engine. Claire watched the meter. You're looking for output under load? Luke glanced at her. You know enough to be dangerous. I spend a lot of time keeping old things working. He almost smiled. Fair. He turned on the headlights and blower, watched the reading settle, then checked the cable again. Charging output looks normal right now. Right now? Yes. So I can work. You can drive the route. Claire waited. But the connection needs a proper clean and secure service. I'd also inspect the cable end. Not roadside. Scheduled. She looked at the route sheet. When? Tomorrow morning. Claire shook her head. I can't. Afternoon. Worse. Luke reached for the shop calendar. Friday. I said I can't build my week around your schedule. And I can't tell you it's handled when I haven't finished the job. The air tightened. Owen stopped sorting sockets. Luke noticed. Claire did too. She folded the route sheet once. I'll manage it. Luke exhaled. That's not a plan. It's my truck. Yes. My job. Yes. My risk. Luke's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. He also hated the idea of letting a known problem leave because the owner refused the next step. I'm trying to keep you from getting stranded. And I'm trying to get to work. Both were true. That was the part neither liked. Luke looked at the clock. Owen needed to leave for school soon. He looked at the truck, then at Claire. I can give you one thing. She waited. A short check now. No repair beyond what's already safe. After that, you decide when you come back. Claire looked at him carefully. No argument if I don't. Luke hesitated. Too long. Her expression changed. He corrected himself. No argument. That cost him because it meant letting her leave with a problem he would rather solve. Claire nodded. Then do the short check. Luke finished the test, tightened only what he had already verified, and stepped away. You're good for today, based on what I can confirm. Claire picked up the cash. Then she placed the folded route sheet on the counter instead. My Friday changes at noon. Luke looked at her. I can bring it then. He nodded. I can hold a slot. For paid work. Luke almost refused automatically. Owen looked over. Luke caught it. For paid work, he said. Claire gave one small nod. The question had changed. It was no longer whether she would accept help. It was whether Luke could help without taking ownership of her problem, and whether Claire could return without treating every kindness like a debt she had to escape. Friday at noon, the service slot sat empty. Luke checked the clock twice before admitting Claire was not coming. Owen looked up from the workbench. She cancel? No, you calling her? Luke already had his phone in his hand. He stopped. She knows the time. Owen nodded and went back to sorting fasteners. 10 minutes later, Luke called anyway. Claire answered on the fourth ring. I'm working. You missed the slot. I know. Truck okay. A pause. For now. Luke heard traffic through the phone. When can you bring it in? I don't know. I can stay late. Owen looked over. Luke saw him. Too late. Claire said, I didn't ask you to. I know. I'm offering. I have another client. Then after. Luke. He tightened his grip on the phone. If that connection loosens again, you could lose the truck in the middle of your route. I understand. Then let me finish the service. I said I'll manage it. The call ended politely. That somehow felt worse. Luke set the phone down. Owen stared at him. You said we were leaving after 4. We are. You just said you'd stay late. I was trying to give her an option. You already gave away the time. Luke opened his mouth, then closed it. At 4:10, Claire's truck rolled into the lot. Luke looked at Owen. Owen looked at the clock. Claire got out holding the red key tag and her folded route sheet. I have 30 minutes. Luke walked toward her. You missed noon. My route changed. You could have texted. I should have. That was direct enough to slow him down. Claire unfolded the sheet. One client needed more time. If I left, I would have had to skip the visit. Luke understood the choice. He did not like the consequence. You're here now. Yes. He looked at the truck, then at Owen waiting near the bay with his jacket on. Luke had a decision to make. The old version was easy. Put the truck inside. Solve the problem. Explain the delay later. Instead, he said, I can do a safety check. I can't do the full service today. Claire looked surprised. You said you'd stay late. I shouldn't have. Owen went still. Claire glanced toward him. Luke continued. I already promised him this time. For once, he protected the boundary before breaking it. His method was still rough. He sounded defensive because part of him wanted Claire to understand what refusing the slot had cost. She heard that too. So this is punishment. No, it sounds like one. Luke rubbed the blue shop towel between his hands. That's not what I mean. What do you mean? 30 minutes isn't enough to clean the connection properly, inspect the cable end, and do it without rushing. Claire looked at the truck. That's the mechanic answer. Yes. And the rest? Luke glanced at Owen. The rest is I'm leaving when I said I would. Claire folded the route sheet. Okay. The word carried no warmth. Luke did the short check anyway. Battery secure. Charging output stable. Nothing he had already verified had worsened. He stepped back. You can use it tonight based on what I can confirm. Claire nodded. I'll find another time. Luke wanted to say, let me make one. He didn't. That was the first changed state. He had finally allowed her problem to remain hers. 2 days later, the truck failed to start at Claire's rental house. Not dramatically. No smoke. No breakdown in traffic. Just a click when she turned the key. Lily stood beside the passenger door with her backpack on. Are you going to call Luke? Claire looked at the time, then at her route sheet. No. She cleaned the connection herself as best she could, tightened what she could reach, and got the engine started. It worked for that morning. She made her first visit. Then the connection acted up again in the home health agency parking area between stops. This time she lost enough time to push the rest of her route late. Her attempt to protect her independence had preserved one morning and damaged the day. That evening, Luke saw the truck pull into the garage lot. Claire stayed behind the wheel for a moment before getting out. The red key tag hung from her hand. I missed another part of my route. Luke did not say I told you so. Claire looked at him. I also missed your appointment. Yes. I should have contacted you before it turned into this. Luke nodded. Then Owen came to the doorway. Claire saw him. Luke saw the question in his son's face. He did not answer for him. Instead, Luke looked at Claire and said, "Before I offer anything, I need to check what I've already promised tonight." Claire's expression changed. Not relief, not trust, but she nodded. Do that. For the first time, neither was pretending the other person's limit was the problem. The truck still needed work. Claire's route was less stable than she wanted. Luke's instinct to help had already cost Owen time he could not give back. Whatever came next would have to work for all three realities at once. Claire returned the following Tuesday with the truck, the red key tag, and a different posture. She did not look defeated. She looked prepared. Luke was finishing a brake job when she stepped into the garage and waited until he looked up. "I need the connection serviced properly." Luke wiped his hands on the blue shop towel. "What time do you need the truck back?" 4. He checked the clock. "That gives me enough time." Claire nodded, then held out the folded route sheet. "My Thursday route changed." Luke did not take it. "What do you need from me?" Claire paused. That was not the question she expected. "I need to know what this repair actually requires." Luke leaned against the counter. "Clean the terminal properly. Inspect the cable end. Replace anything only if it's damaged. Then test charging output under load." "How long?" "About an hour if nothing else shows up." "And if something does?" "I stop and call you." Claire studied him. "You don't just fix it?" "No, you hate that." "Yes." That almost made her smile. Luke looked toward the small office. Owen was doing homework at the desk. "Owen." His son looked up. "I have Claire's truck for about an hour. Anything we already planned?" Owen glanced at the wall clock. "Not until 6. Luke nodded. "Okay." Claire noticed that too. Luke finally took the route sheet. Not to control it. To understand the window she was protecting. "You need this back by 4 because of work." "Yes." "Then, that's the limit." He wrote the time on a plain service tag and clipped it near the keys. Claire watched him. "You're actually putting my deadline on the job." "I'm trying something new." "What?" "Believing people when they tell me what they need." She looked at him for a second longer than necessary. "That's probably useful in customer service." Luke smiled once. "Probably." He pulled the truck into the bay. Claire stayed. "I thought you had somewhere to be." "I do." "Then why are you still here?" She looked at the workbench. "Because I owe you for the first repair." Luke straightened. "There it is." Claire's expression tightened. "I knew you were going to say something. You keep calling it debt." "Because it is." "No. It was help you didn't ask for." "That doesn't make it free." Luke set the blue towel down. "You want to pay for today?" "Yes." "Fine." She blinked. "Fine. Today is scheduled work. You pay for scheduled work." Claire's shoulders lowered slightly. "And the first repair?" "No." Her guard came back immediately. Luke raised a hand. "Not because you can't pay." "Then why?" "Because I made that decision before asking you." Claire looked at him. Luke continued. "That part was mine." The garage went quiet except for a ticking cooling engine. Claire looked down at the route sheet. "I made my own version of that." Luke waited. "I missed the follow-up because I didn't want to feel obligated." "You were busy." "I was." She looked up. "But I also chose not to contact you." Luke said nothing. Claire kept going. "I thought managing it myself meant I was still in control." "And then you lost part of your route." "Yes." There was no excuse in the answer. Just ownership. Luke picked up the blue towel again. "So maybe neither of us gets to define the other person's problem." Claire considered that. "What does that look like?" Luke pointed toward the truck. "You tell me what you can accept." Claire folded the route sheet once. "Scheduled repairs." "Okay." "Clear price before work." "Okay." "No surprise favors." Luke winced. "That one hurts." "I know." He nodded. Claire continued. "And if something small happens and you want to help, you ask." Luke looked toward Owen. "And if it costs time I already promised him, I ask him too." Claire nodded. "That needs to stay." Luke looked back at her. "What do you contribute besides paying your bill?" She raised an eyebrow. That sounded dangerous. "I'm serious." Claire thought about it. "My schedule is predictable some days. More predictable than mine." "Sometimes." Luke glanced toward Owen again. Claire understood before he said it. "If you're running late at the garage and Owen's coming here after school, I can check in with him from the lot before I leave my route." Luke immediately shook his head. "Only if he's okay with that." "Yes." "And only if you're already here." "Yes." "No rearranging your route for us." Claire gave him a look. "Now you're learning." By the time Luke finished the service, the cable end was still usable, the terminal was clean and secure, and the charging system tested normally. No bigger mystery. No miracle fix. Just the work they should have scheduled sooner. Claire paid for the service. Luke accepted it. Neither argued. Before she left, she placed the worn red key tag on the counter for a moment while signing the service slip, then picked it back up. When I need help, I ask. Luke nodded. When I offer help, I ask first. And Owen gets a vote when it affects him. Yes. Claire folded her route sheet and slipped it into her bag. The truck was finally reliable enough for the week. More important, the terms between them were no longer invisible. They had spent days arguing over who owed whom. Now they had made a harder choice. No rescue. No debt. Just an agreement both of them would have to keep when keeping it became inconvenient. Week 4 tested the agreement before either of them was ready. Luke was tightening the last bolt on a pickup when the phone rang at the front counter. He wiped his hands on the blue shop towel and answered. The job was simple. A rush repair. Good money. If he took it, he would not be leaving when he had promised Owen. Luke looked through the open office door. Owen was packing his backpack. You still taking me? He asked. Luke covered the phone. To what? Owen stared at him. The parts place. Luke remembered. They had planned it 3 days earlier. Not because they urgently needed anything. Because Owen wanted to compare a set of used tools with Luke before spending his saved money. Luke looked back at the phone. I can fit one more job. Owen's face changed. You just said we were leaving. It won't take long. You always say that. Luke turned slightly away. The rush repair was exactly the kind of work he was good at. Fast diagnosis. Clear fix. Easy slot to justify. I'll make it up. Owen zipped his backpack harder than necessary. That's not asking me. Luke stopped. But he had already told the caller yes. That was the consequence. Not the repair. The decision. Owen picked up his jacket. I'm going home. Wait. No, Luke watched him leave through the side door. He did not chase him. He finished the rush job. Quickly. Correctly. Profitably. None of that made the empty stool in the office look better. Across town, Claire was making the opposite mistake. Her truck had been running well since Luke serviced the connection. Then, late one afternoon, it hesitated before starting. Once. Just long enough to make her grip the wheel. She checked the time. Her next client visit was close. The agreed process was clear. Call before the problem became urgent. Claire did not call. She told herself one hesitation was not a problem. The truck started normally at the next stop. Then again after that. By the end of the route, she had nearly convinced herself she had been right. The following morning, it cranked slowly. Lily stood by the passenger door with her backpack. Should we call Luke? Claire shook her head. Not yet. Lily looked at the truck. You said we were supposed to ask before it got bad. Claire looked at her daughter. I know what I said. Lily went quiet. Claire hated the silence immediately. She checked the battery connection herself. It was tight. No obvious looseness. Nothing she could responsibly diagnose in the driveway. She knew enough to know that. She also knew she was running late. So she drove. The truck made it through the first part of her route. Then, in the home health agency parking area, it struggled again before starting. Claire lost 15 minutes checking what she could. Then another 10 rearranging her stops. By noon, the whole route was compressed. She did not blame the agency. She did not blame the truck. She did not blame Luke. She knew exactly where the decision had been made. At home, when Lily asked whether they should call, that evening Claire pulled into Luke's garage just before closing. Luke was putting tools away. He looked at the truck, then at her face. What happened? Slow cranked twice. When? Yesterday once. This morning again. Luke stopped. You waited. Yes. His jaw tightened. Claire held up one hand. Don't. I didn't say anything. You were about to. He looked toward the empty office stool, then back at her. You're right. Claire noticed the stool. Owen went home. Why? Luke folded the blue towel once. I took a rush job after I told him we were leaving. Claire's expression shifted. You asked him? No, there was nothing else to defend. She looked down at the worn red key tag in her hand. I didn't call when I should have. Luke nodded. I didn't ask when I should have. They stood there with two different problems and the same old pattern between them. Claire looked at the truck. Can you check it? Luke looked at the clock, then at his phone, then at the closed side door Owen had used. Not tonight. Claire took that in. For once, she did not push. For when? Luke answered carefully. When I've checked what I already owe at home. Claire nodded. Call me after. The truck still started. Owen was still angry. Claire's route was still unstable. The agreement they had built had failed the first time both of them had something real to lose. Luke started with Owen's backpack. It was still on the chair by the kitchen table when Luke got home. Owen was in his room. Luke did not knock immediately. He set his own keys down, looked at the garage schedule on his phone, then opened the calendar he and Owen had started using. The missed trip to the parts place was still there. Luke stared at it for a few seconds. Then he knocked. Yeah. Luke opened the door halfway. I took the rush job because I saw money and a problem I could solve. Owen looked up from his desk. Luke kept going. I didn't ask you because I'd already decided your time was the flexible part. Owen's expression stayed flat. That's what I said. I know. You knew before. Luke nodded. Yeah. That was the harder part. He had not failed because he lacked information. He had failed because being useful had felt more urgent than being reliable. Luke held up his phone. There's an opening tomorrow after work. Owen looked suspicious. For what? The parts place. You moved it. I'm asking if you still want to go. Owen shrugged. Maybe. Luke accepted that. I'm not booking anything else over it unless it's an actual emergency. Owen looked at him. You decide what counts. Luke thought about that. For work? I'll decide whether the job is an emergency. Owen's face tightened. Luke added, but I don't get to call your time optional after I've already promised it. That was more specific. Owen nodded once. Not forgiveness. Just recognition. The next afternoon, Luke's phone rang 10 minutes before they were supposed to leave. He looked at the screen, then at Owen. Owen waited. Luke let it ring. When it stopped, he put the phone in his pocket. You ready? Owen picked up his jacket. Yeah. Across town, Claire sat in the truck with the folded route sheet on her lap. The engine had cranked slowly again that morning. She had almost driven straight to Luke's garage. Instead, she called first. Luke answered after Owen, and he got back. What can you accept? He asked. Claire closed her eyes briefly. The question still irritated her. That was probably why she needed it. A scheduled diagnostic. Okay. No open-ended repair. Okay. If you find something beyond that, you call. Yes. And I need the truck back by 4. Luke checked the garage schedule. I can do Thursday at 1. Claire looked at her route sheet. Thursday was bad. She could make it work only by taking personal time. Unpaid. For several seconds, she tried to build another solution. Push it to Friday. Drive one more day? Hope the slow crank disappeared. Then Lily's voice from that morning came back to her. You said we were supposed to ask before it got bad. Claire exhaled. Thursday at 1. Luke paused. That work? No, he waited. Claire looked at the route sheet. But I'm taking the time. That'll cost you. Yes. Luke did not tell her she did not have to. That mattered. Claire continued. I waited last time because I didn't want the truck problem controlling my schedule. And it controlled it anyway. Yes. She tightened her grip on the paper. So this time I'm choosing the disruption before it chooses me. Luke understood that better than she expected. Thursday at 1. I'll be there. Before she hung up, Claire added. And Lily stays out of it. Good. She doesn't need to know what it costs. No, she just needs to know the adults handled it. Agreed. Thursday would cost Claire wages. The next profitable rush call might cost Luke money if it collided with Owen. Neither liked that. That was exactly why the new rule mattered. Ask first. Name the limit. Let the person carrying the cost choose whether to carry it. And this time, when the choice became inconvenient, neither planned to change the terms afterward. Thursday at 1, Claire pulled into Luke's garage exactly when she said she would. The red key tag swung from her hand as she stepped out. Luke was already clearing the bay. Owen sat in the office with homework spread across the desk. Claire looked at the clock. I have until 4. Luke nodded. And you said diagnostic first. Yes. If it turns into more, I call you before I touch anything beyond that. She handed him the key. For once, I'm going to believe you. Luke took it. That sounds expensive. It is. He almost smiled. Claire did not. She was already looking at her folded route sheet. I'm taking personal time for this. Luke's expression changed. Unpaid. Yes. He started to say something. Claire saw it. Don't. Luke stopped. I chose the time. Okay. That's the point. He nodded. Claire left. Luke pulled the truck into the bay. The slow crank showed itself immediately. Not every time. Just enough. Luke checked what he had already serviced. Battery connection secure. Cable end clean. Charging output normal. He moved through the diagnostic methodically instead of deciding the first suspicious thing had to be the answer. Owen came to the bay entrance. You find it? Not yet. You usually say that like it bothers you. It does. Owen looked at him. You going to call her? When I know what I'm asking permission to do. That earned a small nod. Luke continued the test. The battery itself was weak under load. Not dead. Not an emergency. But weak enough to explain the slow crank. Luke checked the time. 1:48. Then his phone rang. A rush job. He listened. Good pay. Close by. If he left now, he could probably take it, come back, finish Claire's truck, and still make the evening. Probably. Luke looked toward Owen. His son had already gone back to the office. Luke looked at Claire's key, then at the garage schedule. He knew exactly how the old version of him would justify it. The diagnostic was mostly done. Claire had until 4. Owen's plans were later. There was room. Until there wasn't. Luke said, I can't take it. He ended the call. Then he called Claire. She answered quickly. What did you find? The battery is weak under load. Connection? Good. Charging system? Normal. So what are you recommending? Battery replacement. Claire was quiet. That included in what I authorized. No, then don't do it yet. Luke nodded. Okay. She paused. You agree that easily now? I'm trying to be less interesting. That got a short laugh. Claire said, what would it take? Luke gave her the price and time. No free work. No surprise favor. No discount she had not asked for. Claire looked at the route sheet in front of her. Replacing it now would keep her from losing more time later. It would also make the unpaid afternoon longer. She had already sacrificed part of the day. Now she had to decide whether to finish the process she had come for. Do it. You sure? Yes. I can have it ready by 3. Then I'll come back at 3. Luke hung up. He replaced the battery, checked the starting system again, and verified the charging output once more. No extra work. No added problem hunting. Just what had been approved. At 2:53, Claire returned. Luke had the truck outside the bay. Claire walked straight to the counter. How'd it test after? Normal. You do anything else? No, she looked at him. Really? Luke lifted both hands. Trying to stay boring. Claire paid the bill. Then she looked toward Owen in the office. You kept your afternoon? Owen answered before Luke could. So far. Luke gave him a look. Claire almost smiled. Then Luke's phone rang again. Another rush request. Owen glanced at the clock. They had planned to leave together later. Luke looked at the phone, then at his son. He let it ring out. Claire watched him. That one hurt. Yes. Good money. Probably. Owen stood. You don't have to prove anything. Luke looked at him. I know. That mattered more than if Owen had thanked him. Claire picked up the red key tag. I took unpaid time today. Luke nodded. I turned down work. Neither said the other had done the right thing. Neither needed praise. The cost was visible enough. Claire had chosen disruption before the truck could choose it for her. Luke had chosen a promise before another useful problem could claim him. The truck started cleanly when Claire turned the key. Lily had not carried a message. Owen had not been asked to surrender another plan. For the first time, the agreement between Luke and Claire had survived the exact moment when breaking it would have been easier. Several weeks later, Claire brought the truck in because the calendar said to. Not because it broke. Not because Lily was crying. Not because Luke had called to remind her. The red key tag landed on the counter at 2:05 on a Tuesday afternoon. Routine service, Claire said. Luke looked at the appointment board, then at her. You're early. 5 minutes. Suspicious. Claire handed him the keys. I'm trying something new. Luke smiled. So am I. Owen was in the office finishing homework, and Lily sat in one of the waiting chairs with a book open across her knees. Neither child was carrying a message. That had become normal too. Luke checked the truck according to the scheduled service. No extra hunting. No while I'm here repairs. When he found a worn wiper blade, he walked back to Claire instead of replacing it. Front driver's side is getting rough. Claire looked through the open bay. Does it need to be done today? No, then leave it. Luke nodded. Okay. She gave him a look. That easy. I'm trying to stay boring. You've said that before. Still working. At 3, the truck was ready. Claire paid the agreed bill. Luke accepted it without arguing. Then she looked toward Lily. We should go. Lily closed her book. Owen came out of the office at the same time. Dad, are we still getting food? Luke looked at the clock. Yeah. Claire picked up the red key tag. Luke hesitated, then looked at Owen. Would you care if they came with us? Owen glanced at Claire and Lily. For food. For food. Not a surprise to our thing. Luke nodded. Good question. Claire crossed her arms. I also get a vote. Luke looked at her. You interested? Depends. On whether you're asking because you actually want company or because you think feeding people is your personality. Owen made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. Luke looked at him. Helpful. Very. Luke turned back to Claire. I want company. She studied him. Lily stayed quiet. Luke noticed that too. He did not ask her to convince her mother. Claire looked at Lily. You want to? Lily nodded. Yeah. Claire looked at Luke again. Then yes. They ate at a small place nearby. Nothing special. Owen argued that Luke always ordered the same thing. Luke denied it. Claire proved him wrong by remembering his last order. That's unsettling, Luke said. You're predictable. I prefer dependable. Owen looked at him. That's newer. Luke accepted that without defending himself. After dinner, they walked back to the garage. Claire's truck was still parked near the bay. Lily and Owen went inside to grab their things. Claire stopped beside Luke. You didn't offer to fix the wiper. I mentioned it. That's different. Apparently. She smiled. Then Luke said, Can I ask you something? Claire gave him a look. You're already doing better than last time. He laughed. Would you want to get coffee sometime when neither kid is involved? Claire did not answer immediately. Luke waited. No garage emergency? No truck problem? No free repair disguised as a date. Luke put a hand over his heart. That one hurts. Claire smiled. Then yes. Luke nodded. Okay. Ask me when you actually know your schedule. He glanced toward Owen inside the office. Fair. Claire opened the truck door. Luke handed her the keys instead of keeping them 1 second longer than necessary. When she drove away, the worn red key tag was back in her hand. On the garage counter, Luke's blue shop towel rested beside the empty service slot. Nothing had been rescued. Nothing was owed. And for once, everything that mattered had been scheduled, asked for, and chosen.